Hello and welcome to another episode of Ewell Acres. Today we're going to be continuing talking about our species highlight by talking about strawberries, what they are, how to take care of them, and the ins and outs. Let's get started. As a quick side note, if you like what we're doing, if you're gaining value out of these videos, please don't forget to subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. Not only does it help us out with the YouTube algorithm, but it also helps us so that we can better continue to spread this knowledge for others so we can learn and grow together. Now, when you're looking at strawberries, strawberry is what is called a perennial fruit. What that means is it lives for multiple seasons. So you're going to have the plant, it's going to grow up, it's going to overwinter, go into dormancy for the winter, and then it's going to grow up again and continue that life cycle for multiple years. On average, your strawberries are going to live anywhere between 3 and 5 years. Now, that's going to sometimes be a lot more, sometimes it can be less, depending on diseases or things that they deal with. But on average, the actual productive lifespan of strawberries is going to be that 3 to 5 year range, meaning you're going to get most of your fruit in that lifespan. So if you want to continue to have them live for a longer period of time, you very easily could. However, the time investment that it takes, the nutrients, the resources, the labor, everything involved in taking care of strawberries is not going to give you a net result back in the fruit that it produces. So on average, most people are going to actually get rid of their strawberries after that 3 to 5 year mark in going it down, and I personally am no exception to that. Now, when you actually go to do strawberries, there are two ways that they're going to produce. You can produce them by seed or what is called a runner. And you have the mother plant, and then it's going to send off a small little vining shoot off to the sides. And this is on average going to be anywhere between 4 and 6 vining shoots per season, depending on the individual strawberry. Then it's going to have anywhere between 3, 6, maybe even more daughter plants that are connected to that vine. As that small little daughter plant sits on the ground, it's going to produce a root system and then produce its own plants. And this is by far the most common way how the strawberries reproduce. So you can start with only a couple strawberries, and after only a couple years, your 3-4 strawberries can easily turn into dozens, if not hundreds, as you allow them to continue to expand. And that's how most people reproduce their strawberries and how you can continue to grow them on your own to develop a very nice strawberry patch. Now, the growing requirements, typically, strawberries are going to like well-drained, high organic matter soil that has very high in nutrients. They are very hungry little girls. In particular, they're going to want a little bit more phosphorus, potassium, even sometimes a little bit of iron, manganese, some of your other micronutrients. But by far, the biggest that they have in order to get lots of wonderful strawberries is going to be phosphorus and potassium. Now, of course, they are going to need nitrogen as well, but you want to be careful not to give them too much nitrogen, because if you give them a lot of nitrogen and not as much phosphorus or potassium, then you're going to have a very large amount of leaves and not so much fruit. Now, when you're looking at the other requirements, strawberries, like many berries, are going to like to be anywhere in the 5.5 to 6.5 pH. So for someone like me in my area, yes, I can grow strawberries, but on average, my soils are going to be in the 7.2 to 7.8 pH range. And so if I want them to do a little bit better, often I'm going to need to add some sort of a soil amendment to help drive the pH of my soil down. So you have different soil acidifiers, you have sulfur, there is lime ash from your fire, sometimes pine needles, but only do a small amount because they could add some other things to the soil. So there are those soil amendments that you can artificially add into it. When you do compost, when you do other carbon-based things, it also helps to balance out the pH. Or that's going to be your long-term solution for doing your pH drivings, and that's the one that I personally like. Or there are some synthetic artificial fertilizers to artificially drive down the system. So it all depends on how quick do you want it. Are you looking for the slow, more natural approach to add things to it? Or are you looking for, you know what, I need the strawberries, I'm going to do a quick amendment now while I do the long-term solutions of building it up? Or do you just want to do the quick solution every single year? Those are the bare bones basics of when you're looking at strawberries. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier that the productive lifespan of strawberries on average is going to be 3 to 5 years. Now, most people, when they get strawberries, they throw them in, they get a couple strawberries, they get really excited and go, I got strawberries. But you have to keep in mind that strawberries are going to not produce very many the first year. They're going to produce more the second year. They're going to produce even more the third year. And then on the fourth year, they're going to start to die off a little bit. Fifth year, if they're not producing a whole lot, that's when you want to consider getting rid of them. A lot of people, when they get plants the first year, especially strawberries, they see 1 to 2 strawberries produce and they get really excited and figure, I'll get a whole lot more next year. Now, a key thing to help out with your tips and tricks with strawberries is the first year that you get them, when you see blossoms, break those blossoms off. Do not allow your strawberry to blossom, because it's going to take what little energy it is able to produce and pushing it into the blossoms. What you want to do is take all of its energy into the root production, into the actual production and viability of the plant itself. So that way, when you get to year 2, when you get to year 3, when you get to year 4, you're going to get a much larger amount of strawberries. Not only on a year-over-year basis, but the overall volume of strawberries that you're going to be receiving of the plant over the lifespan is going to be much larger as well. So now that we've got the main, very quick care of strawberries, what they are, what they're good for, let's go ahead and take a look. When you could look at strawberries, you can break strawberries down into 2 main categories. You're going to have what's called June-bearing strawberries, and then you're going to have what's called ever-bearing strawberries. Now, ever-bearing strawberries are exactly as it sounds. You're going to plant them, they're going to start to grow, and they're going to continually produce strawberries throughout the year. Now, typically, at least in my area, I don't get strawberries on ever-bearing strawberries throughout the entire year. In early spring, when temperatures are good, you're going to get a small crop of them. When it gets too hot for the strawberries to continue to produce, then it's going to go into survival mode and stop producing. As the temperatures dip back down in the fall, then it is going to go ahead and start producing again. The nice thing about ever-bearing strawberries is you're going to get strawberries throughout the entire year. The only downside is you're not going to get as many all at once. So if you want fresh-eating strawberries to pick a few here and there to put in your cereal in the morning, this might be a great option for you. Downside is the overall production and weight of the strawberries is typically going to be lower because it's trying to extend its resources throughout the entire year, so it's going to be a little bit more conservative in its actual production and energy that it pushes into the production of strawberries. On the other hand, June-bearing strawberries will go at different times of the year based on where you're located, but on average, they're going to fruit anywhere between May or June, and they are only going to produce once per year. You're going to get, typically speaking, much larger strawberries, much flavorful strawberries, because it's going to push all of its resources all at once in one go over a 3 to 4 week period of time. Now, this is by far the most common strawberry used in commercial production. It's one that I would recommend if you want to do canning, large amounts of preservation, just because you're going to get all your fruit all at once. It's going to make it much easier to collect a large amount of fruit when you're trying to deal with canning, preservation, bulk amounts. So they are both great. They both have their uses. It just comes down to your own personal preference and what you want out of your strawberries. Strawberries tend to be very cold. They're going to be potentially a little bit more vulnerable to really cold temperatures. So if you do live in a very cold area, you will want to consider doing some sort of frost protection, insulation, whether it's straw covering it, just to help protect it from the very coldest of bites of winter. Now, strawberries can get down into the negative temperatures, whether it's -5, -10, but when you get down into those temperatures, you really start pushing the limits of how cold strawberries can survive. And so that's when you would typically use some sort of protection to help fight off that coldest bite of winter, just to give you that slight extra degree protection. And that slight degree protection with that frost is going to mean the difference between life and death for your strawberries. Now, because on a quick final note, when you're looking at strawberries, we mentioned that there is going to be a cyclical action where first year you're not going to get very much, second year you're going to get a little bit, and then your third and fourth year you're going to get a little bit more. So now you can decide, well, I don't want to just plant strawberries, get a whole bunch one year, not get so much, and you're going to have peaks and valleys between your strawberries. So what you can do is actually plant a rotation of strawberries. I personally like doing 4 beds or 4 areas that I grow my strawberries. If you're doing containers on your patio, you can do the exact same thing. Have 4 pots. Do a year 1 strawberry where you're going to nip all of the flowers off, let it grow lots of energy. Year 2 and 3, you're going to get lots of production, or those separate beds. Pot 4, it's going to tend to start to die off, and at that point you probably want to consider taking out that bed and rotating it back into a year 1 strawberry on the following year. So that way you can get a continuous rotation of always having 4 spots. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, so you get a consistent volume of strawberries from year to year to help prevent that peak valley system. That's one personal trick that I like to do. Now that we've talked about the strawberries, what your thoughts? Do you like strawberries? Do you not? Am I hitting the mark? Am I not? Let us know in the comments below. I always like to find out new information, discussions, and learning from other people. So let us know in the comments below if you like strawberries. How is it that you grow your strawberries? Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Please don't forget to subscribe, click on that bell for notifications, and we look forward to seeing you next time.